This is where Wisconsin wakes up. It's Daybreak with Brian Noonan and Jamie Martinson. Here are your hosts, Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. It's 6 minutes after 6 right now. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I almost said good morning. I'm Thursday morning. Good morning. I am Thursday morning. I am everything that Thursday morning brings to you. I'm Brian Noonan. Glad you're here. 855-75-CIVIC if you want to get a hold of us, 855-752-4842. Here, we're going to throw this question right out immediately.
Yes.
What's your favorite state park here in Wisconsin? Because it's a big weekend, but
it is.
Yes. Sorry for boy. If this is the way the show's going to go, where I don't even get my name out correctly.
You've had a big week, though. There's been a few things going on this week.
Not even over. I cannot. Yeah. I am so happy that it's Thursday because that means tomorrow is Friday.
That's
and
right.
This week will end.
That's right.
And I will be happy. But yes, so here we are. It is so. Why are we asking about state parks, Jimmy? It's Thursday. People have to go to work. We don't have time to be out gallivanting in the state parks.
But you probably need to make some plans because this is a really exciting week. I said yesterday, if you were listening to the show, there is so much going on over the next couple of weeks in Wisconsin. If you literally can't find something to do, you are not trying hard enough, or you just want to sit inside and watch TV and veg out for a little bit because there's just so much going on.
Then complain that you missed the nice
weather.
Right.
Where's
all the nice weather? I was here this weekend. It's going to be really warm, beautiful time to get out.
I stayed inside.
Yeah, I stayed inside.
But this is a big weekend if you love to be outdoors because it's Wisconsin's annual Free Fun Weekend. It will actually run the 6th and the 7th, and it gives residents of Wisconsin or even just visitors free access to the state parks, the trails, and it's also free fishing weekend across the state. So there's no park admission stickers. You don't need a fishing license this weekend. You don't need the trout stamps. You don't need trail passes. You just get to go use all of the amazing facilities and check out all that Wisconsin has to offer. I always loved this weekend. This is one of those weekends where in the past, and when we were living in Baraboo, we would literally pick a state park around us. And yes, when I say that sounds ridiculous because we had Devil's Lake in our backyard and Mirror Lake, and we spent tons of time at both. Don't try to go to Devil's Lake this weekend.
Okay, good pro tip. Going to the one closest to the house, that on a weekend like this where you get into somewhere else free, it's kind of a weak sauce. You got to go somewhere else.
And Devil's Lake is always very busy this time of year. On certain weekends, like Free Weekend, if you didn't think you were going to do a trail walk, you're probably going to do a trail walk because you end up parking so far off the grounds to get inside the park. But if you're brave enough to do so, go enjoy. It's gorgeous. I always recommend. I just know how busy it's going to be this weekend. But there are so many amazing places that you can go visit in this state, and this is a great weekend to go check out one of them that maybe has been on your list. I have several state parks in Wisconsin that I love. Devil's Lake, always going to be special to me. I actually am a huge fan of Mirror Lake State Park. It's very serene. It's very quiet. If you do love to hike and do walks, it's amazing. There's kayaking available on Mirror Lake. You can actually rent kayaks right there at
I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Now, do you paddle right up to Ishnala?
You can. You absolutely can. There's a beach at Ishnala, and
then you could feel like you're conquering, like you're storming the beaches for some prime rib.
There are actually several people. They actually have a boat dock at Ishnala, so you can actually just boat right up, dock the boat, get your drinks, go wait on the beach until, it's time for you to go sit, and then you can enjoy a beautiful dinner at Ishnala as well. Most famous supper club in all of the state, of course.
And they're right in the park, correct?
They are. They were grandfathered in very, very long ago because Ishnala existed before Mirror Lake State Park existed. Okay. So they got grandfathered in.
Nice.
The best part about Ishnala being there is in certain areas of the park, if you're doing a hike, you can smell everything cooking from Ishnala. It just permeates across the entire park. It's awesome.
Well, that's good. If you get lost, you can follow your nose back to civilization.
Yes. Kohler Andre State Park over by Green Bay is also beautiful. I'm also a huge fan of Governor Dodge State Park. If you do a little hiking there, there's a path where you can go down and you kind of feels like you go into another world because you kind of go down into a valley, and there's a beautiful little waterfall and little ponds and things. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So this is a really fun time of year, and you can partake in all of it. Alicia pointing out, yes, High Cliff and Point Beach State Parks, two of my High Cliff is also one of my favorites. And this is also the weekend. She's also pointing out on our YouTube chat this morning, since it is Dairy Month in the state of Wisconsin, all of those farm breakfasts start this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
okay.
yes. So you can go buy your tickets, see how an actual dairy farm works. You're going to get some amazing farm fresh food. I mean, it really truly is like two of the busiest weekends in a row in the entire state. Starting this weekend.
Sick tomorrow.
I know.
Call in sick tomorrow. Get out. Make your plans. Go to a state park that's far away from your house.
Yes.
And, yes, it'll cost you money to stay overnight on Friday somewhere, but that'll be fun. And then you get free outdoor recreation on Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be a great weekend weather-wise to get out too. So for all of our complaining about how cold it's been and everybody whining about the winter and the rain and the blah, 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 now's the time.
Yes.
Get out and enjoy. I'm looking forward to being outside sometime over the weekend and just sitting.
Yes. Just
Parker,
relaxing.
are you an outdoors guy?
Not.
You seem like a hothouse flower to me.
Oh, okay.
Do you need more explanation, Parker? I
probably
saw
a
the
little
face.
bit. Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit on that one.
Just a flower that blooms better indoors.
Okay, that's what I figured you meant. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the other. I have no idea what any other definition could be. But
No, I
that's
don't either.
okay.
But that was
Your
a new
mind
one
goes
for
in
me.
I could just see his face. I'm like, oh, he definitely needs an explanation on that. Have you ever fished? This is your weekend to fish, Parker, if you've never fished.
I've not fished.
It's free fishing weekend.
It's funny. We have a bunch of fishing stuff in our house because my dad fished a lot, I think, with his grandpa.
Okay.
So, yeah, we somewhere there is a boat in our family, unless we sold it.
Oh, wow.
Which is possible.
Pawned it.
Apparently, you've never been on it, Parker, because you have no idea where the boat
he
is.
has
They're
no
kind of
idea.
hard to lose.
I know where it was.
I think we have a boat. It might be a boat. It might be a dinghy.
Well,
Could be just a wash tub.
It may have been more of a dinghy, frankly.
All right.
But it was
Dinghies
never
can be
an ours.
fun. Dinghies can be fun.
Sure.
Yeah, but it was ours, and then I think my uncle had it, though.
Okay.
Like, we didn't have the space to hold it, so he just kept it in his garage. I don't know.
You got a boat. All right, here's a boat question since we brought up boats. Pontoon or speedboat? Your preferences?
Depends on the mood I'm in. Because pontoons are very different, right? So if I want to
that's why there's like two opposite ends.
If I want to relax and I just want to meander around for the day and take in a whole lot of sun and hang out with family and friends, then pontoons are definitely probably my better choice. If I'm just wanting to have a whole lot of fun and, need a little wind in the hair, then of course you pick the speedboat because it's a little different. So it really depends on my mood. I'm more likely to say pontoon, but I love a good speedboat ride too. They can be a whole lot of fun. So
I'm pontoon all the way.
Okay.
I mean, because you can't get pontoons that go fast enough so you can tube behind them and things like that. I don't need to pretend I'm Sonny Crockett in Miami Vice with my cigarette boat zipping across the lake.
And your
I want to
neons?
just be out on the water chilling.
do you have a
Chilling, get the grill on there.
A leisurely boat
A
ride.
leisurely
Just
boat ride. I
float.
love it. Anna is texting in this morning, listening on WMDX in Madison. She says, I love Peninsula State Park in Door County. Yes, another really, really good one. The view from the new observation deck is beautiful. Just actually had a chance to check out Peninsula State Park last fall, like early fall, before all the colors
Okay.
started to change. But yes, absolutely another gorgeous one. I mean, that's the thing, though, in Wisconsin, we are relatively lucky because we do have so many amazing outdoor places to go and check out. And we also always use Free State Park Weekend where we pick a new one because periodically we like to camp. Now, we do have a little pop-up trailer. We haven't used it
Okay.
now in a couple of years. We bought it used. I named her Gertie. Why? I don't know, but that's her name. So it has stuck. And so we periodically take Gertie out. Now, my husband thought this was going to be a lot better than tent tent camping until he had to do it once and realized it's just a glorified tent. So
Yeah, those are not. I mean, those are. It's like, oh, that'll be fun. We actually are in a camper. No, you're just in a
you're
tent
in a
on wheels.
Yes, that's exactly what you're in.
And you still got to set it
Yes.
up, and you still have to move everything around.
But at
and it's
least
like,
you have a
"Ugh, this is hassle."
refrigerator and all of that, so you do have a few more modern conveniences. So we're kind
But
of
you still have to go outside to go to the bathroom.
Yes, this is true. And we're still on the fence about what we want to do with Gertie. If we want to like upgrade Gertie and get something a little less tent-like or and small, or so. But we use state park weekends to, because sometimes you'll see photos from a state park and you're like, ooh, that's beautiful. What are their camping facilities like? So we use this weekend to go check out the campgrounds and things to see if we like it, to see if there's shade and all of that kind of stuff.
Are you going to anywhere this weekend?
We actually have to be in Iowa City tomorrow. I'll be doing the show remotely, and then we'll be back tomorrow night. So we might try to venture out Saturday and Sunday to a couple of state parks we haven't been to. There's also a couple. One of my other favorites is over by Eau Claire. It's Burnett State Park. It's actually like a little island. So as you drive to Burnett, you actually cross like this little piece of land that takes you out onto this island, and then you're surrounded by beautiful water and forest, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. But we are really truly lucky to have all of that at our disposal in this state. So if you have the opportunity to get out this weekend and enjoy and check out some of the places around you, please do. This is a great weekend to do so. Again, no park admission. So that's like a bonus.
And it all balances out because you're paying exorbitant gas prices to get there. But still, then you don't have to pay for anything else. You don't have, like JV said earlier, no fishing license, no trout stamps, nothing. You just go and fish. I haven't fished in a long time. One of my brothers is an avid fisherman, and my wife, who grew up in Michigan, she used to fish all the time when she was little. Like, well, do you want to fish again? I hate cleaning them. I said, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. Then we'll just catch and release. How about that? Then you don't have to clean anything.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Because her grandma used to do all the cleaning.
Okay.
Of the fish.
Yeah, it's better when you have somebody to do that.
She and her grandpa would fish, and grandma would clean and cook.
Corey's dad was a huge fisherman as well. And as we got older and smarter and wiser and our boys got older, when we would go visit the UP, we wouldn't stay in motels. We would do like a Verbo or an Airbnb and usually do something right on water so that when people were visiting, our kids could go run around and still play.
Yeah.
Now, it usually ended up being cold and rainy and defeated the purpose, but we usually got a couple of nice days out, right? We got a couple of nice days out of it, and everybody would come to us. And then Corey's dad would bring all of his fishing gear, and then he would take the boys fishing. And that was always a huge, huge thing for my boys to go fishing with Grandpa Mike. They loved doing it. My dad passed away when Max was only 3. He also loved to fish, so they didn't get to do it with my dad ever, but they got to do it with Grandpa Mike a few times. Now, I'm not going to say they're avid fishermen, but they still talk about fishing with Grandpa Mike.
Well, see, those are the kind of memories you make. I remember getting my very first Zebco. The entry-level fishing pole.
I had a Scooby-Doo one.
Nice.
Yes, I was fancy.
Nice.
I think I had a Smurf one in there, too, somewhere.
You're very high line. Hey, guess what? The House may have grown a backbone. Not the State House, the Federal House of Representatives. We'll talk about that and so much more. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak.
I'm Jamie Martinson. 6:19 right now. You're listening to the Civic Media Network.
Now back to more of Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. It is 22 minutes after 6 now. I am Jamie Martinson.
And good morning, I'm Brian Noonan. What do you think finally made the House and Mike Johnson stand up and speak out against the war? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Well, I can't believe it. It's nothing legal, nothing binding, but the U.S. House voted 215 to 208 to approve a resolution aimed at limiting President Trump's authority to continue military action in Iran without congressional approval. It's the fourth time the House has tried to curb the U.S. war against Iran. Mike Johnson had tried to prevent an outcome that would show the mounting opposition to the war. He shut down floor action 2 weeks ago when the resolution was on the verge of approval. But guess what? Displeasure has grown.
Yes.
People will not be silenced, and the conflict drags on and on. There's no plan for peace. Trump said negotiations bore him. Well, 4 Republicans jumped ship: Thomas Massie, Brian Fitzpatrick, Tom Barrett, and Warren Davidson. They joined the Democrats in supporting the measure. It reflects bipartisan concerns about the president's war powers. It's about time. It's sad that only 4 Republicans jumped on, but those 4 at least.
They did the right thing.
And again, this is symbolic. It doesn't really carry any weight, but it is a sign that
there's cracks.
Things are shifting.
There's cracks, and let me be clear on this as well. Thomas Massie, as as a lot of us know, and we watched play out a couple weeks ago, lost his primary in Kentucky to a Trump-endorsed candidate. So he really has nothing to lose at this point.
Nope.
However, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Tom Barrett of Michigan, and Warren Davidson of Ohio. This is notable because all 3 of them are running for re-election in November. And so what this tells me is that they're actually listening to their constituents back home. They're seeing the fact that there's frustration over expanding military force. They're seeing frustration over the economy and what this war has potentially done to their state's economy and to their constituents. And they actually are listening. And they're probably in safe districts anyway, so they probably felt like they could do this because there's always some sort of motive behind this, but the fact that they did it is good news, and it does show that there's cracks.
They could also be looking at the results from some of the elections on Tuesday, where Trump's endorsed candidates did not do well. And at some point, if you've been in politics as long as these guys have, and those are all pretty familiar names to a lot of people, you have to realize the guy at the top is not going to be there forever.
Right.
You have to start making contingency plans, because as much as he wants to be there forever, and as much as there are people working behind the scenes to keep him there forever, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not. And let's also be clear, thanks to Marquette University and the poll that they released yesterday, he's not a popular president. He's not a popular president at all. In fact, his approval rating is at 38% nationally. That's the lowest of his second term. A net approval rating of -24. And here in Wisconsin, in case anybody's wondering, his net approval rating is -14. That's the lowest.
That's not good, right?
No, it's not good at all. It's the lowest recorded for him in the state across both of his terms. And it's notable because he's actually going to be in the state tomorrow. He's going to be in Chippewa Falls.
Yes.
Yeah.
I doubt he will be having a line in Kugel, since he famously does not drink.
He does not.
But he's going to want to drown his sorrows when he sees these numbers.
Yeah.
And it's the economy and inflation. And he can say all he wants that inflation and affordability are made up terms by the Democrats. But when it's so easy to disprove your lies,
right,
you're either dumber than the Democrats, to in his words, to try to make the change, or you just really, really are so out of touch that you have the mindset of let them eat cake.
Yes.
Because affordability is not a made-up term. Affordability is looking at your paycheck every week, looking at what you have to put out and going, I don't have money to do this.
Right.
And not even, see, a lot of people like to focus when they're arguing about that it's all about luxuries. It's not about luxuries.
No.
It's about
everyday
milk,
life,
eggs, gas,
staples,
electricity. It's all the things that keep you going. Rent, mortgage.
Yes. The basic things that you need to live that people are struggling to pay and are basically deciding from month to month what is most important, right? That's literally what people are doing right now, is trying to figure out, well, if I skip this at the grocery store, this will give me a little bit more to pay for this month. That's literally what's happening. And I know that everybody is in that situation right now. There's so many people who are in that situation trying to figure out what they should pay, how they should pay it. And it solely falls on tariffs, which, by the way, the president yesterday announced that he wants another 10% tariff. So that's being looked at now by this administration. The fact that Marco Rubio yesterday tried to tell us at a committee hearing that the war is essentially over and peace has been achieved, but yet there were bombings yesterday. And the fact that there is no end in sight to any of these policies. And I think that is what is so frustrating. And I guess when I read this Marquette poll, the thing that frustrated me the most is that Trump does have a lot of influence yet over the GOP. 71% of voters in this new Marquette poll said that they would support a Trump-endorsed Republican candidate. Now, that is obviously in just the GOP. Independents and Democrats are. That's where his numbers keep falling, is with independents especially, right? And he has still a strong Republican support. The independents, though, not so much. This is where you start getting those negative numbers when you look at how they're seeing things.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see how he's received tomorrow and how the farmers and folks in rural communities weigh out reality versus what he's going to tell them. And
he'll be there with Derek Van Orden, by the way. They'll be making an appearance together. So,
what swerve will he go on tomorrow? What do you think? How many times will the election being stolen in Wisconsin come up?
I don't know.
Do a little bet. It'll be very interesting as we talk about it on Monday. But when we come back, Congress still in the news. And election security. Remember that? Oh, sure. Okay, it's Daybreak. This is the Civic Media Network. I'm Brian Noonan. She's Jamie Martinson. We'll be back.
Want to join in on the conversation? Call or text 855-75-CIVIC. Now back to Brian and Jamie.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. If you're listening in Madison on WMDX or in Wausau on WXCO, in La Crosse on WLCX or in Hayward on WBZH, we thank you so much for joining us. And hey, Brian, this is our little morning reminder where you're about a half hour away from being able to qualify for more cash and prizes at our Accelerate Your Summer multi-state text-to-win contest. So get that app ready because we would love to give you some cash and qualify you for some really big prizes. Love that.
Yeah, we've already given away $300 and 3 Wisconsin Dells prize packs. We've got a few more, 2 more this week, today and tomorrow, and then all 5 days next week, Monday to Friday. Because I know somebody was going to call in. Does he not know there's 7 days in the week? Yes, I do know there's 7 days.
Monday through Friday, because we're only
I
here
didn't know
Monday
my own
through
name
Friday.
36 minutes ago, but that's all right. But
That's
either
all
way, how do you feel about your name being turned over to the government as part of a voter roll? Well, your name's already on the Wisconsin voter rolls, but now let's get federal. Because once again, our illustrious dear leader and many Republicans are pushing for stricter voting laws, including proof of citizenship requirements, saying that changes are needed to protect, the million-dollar term, election integrity. That's right. The elections have been just fraught with fraud and cheating and everything else. No, they haven't.
No, and you already have to be a citizen in order to vote. This is already a requirement. This is already law.
And you have to be registered.
Right.
You have to, But anyway, funding for the federal agency that handles the elections, that helps states secure elections, has dropped dramatically, falling from more than $400 million in election security grants in 2020 to $45 million this year. So they're saying that cut has meant the elections are less secure, but you cut the funding, so you made the elections less secure. So where does it end? Where do we finally get to stop using the term election integrity when it almost never came up before?
No.
Before 2016, you would find there'd be little things here and there.
Sure.
Maybe once in a while.
Right.
But now if you just came to this planet or if you just moved to this country and you listened to Republicans, you would think, oh my gosh, what kind of weird banana republic are they living in? These elections are a farce, when in fact they are not.
No, but the point is to continue to attack them until they are a farce and people absolutely have no faith in them. That is the actual point of all of this.
I understand. That's why we have to keep railing against it, even though I'm sure you're as bored of hearing it as we're
Right.
are saying it.
But the attacks
but we
just keep
have to
coming,
keep
and they
saying
keep
it.
making it harder and harder. And that's the entire point of it, is that they are trying to make it harder and harder. And with the midterms coming up and then another presidential election in 2 years, where are we going to be? And let's be real. I mean, the states are supposed to run the elections. They keep saying that the states are
Exactly.
in charge. They want states' rights. This is what the GOP continues to tell us. They want the states to be in charge. They want the states to determine this. But then the states are trying to determine their own elections. They're trying to run their own elections, and yet you're making it harder by continually cutting funding for the states to do that. It's this
Right.
never-ending loop, and it is full of all it's doing. And we've talked about this before. So yes, if we sound like a broken record, we apologize, because we feel like a broken record.
We are.
Right? But it's all about sowing mistrust in a process that should be really easy. I mean, it should be really easy. And
Yeah.
election work is year-round work. Our elections commissions from state to state, and here even in Wisconsin, they do the work. It's not just every 4 years. And the election commission in Wisconsin, they're always busy. I mean, we vote all the time in this state.
Of course,
we
yeah.
constantly have an election.
And we need election security. You want that.
Of course.
Listen, the man who's crying the most about election integrity brought in Elon Musk, who may or may not, depending on what report you read and what day it is, had some sort of influence over the last election. But yes, you do need cybersecurity. You need equipment upgrades. You need all of that. But then you don't cut the funding.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody is disagreeing with you that, well, let's just leave the doors open and
Right.
see what happens. Everything will be fine. No, everybody
Nobody's
agrees.
saying
Yes,
that.
give the states the money so that they can run the election
Right.
and run it above board and run it safely and make sure nothing goes wrong. But we can't do that
No.
if you don't pay us.
They can't. And a lot of these election offices not only use the grants for upgrading basically infrastructure and keeping staff around, but it also helps pay for security cameras, security ballot drop boxes, the software updates, and all of those protections against hacking attempts. It's literally a year-round responsibility, and it can't be maintained only during the presidential elections. And I don't know if that's what they're assuming. Maybe this is another one of those ploys that they're like, well, if we make it harder, then we only have an election every 4 years, because it turns out that Republican voters are stronger during presidential elections than they are during other parts of election season. So
Yeah.
who knows what the thinking is here, but it really, it's so disturbing, because that's part of a basic right of being a citizen of this country, is being able to vote. So the fact that this has been an ongoing war against voting and making it harder and taking away people's rights and basically determining who should be able to vote and who can't. And by the way, 0.0003% of fraud happens in an election.
I love when you bring out that statistic, because anything else, if you were 0.000 something, it wouldn't even be worth mentioning.
No.
But this whole thing, just like gerrymandering, he talks about rigged systems and rigged this and rigged that. Man, the Republicans are union level riggers. These guys are always trying to do something. Redrawing the maps, making it harder to vote, cutting funding, and then never letting go of the fact that the elections are
Right.
not secure, even though everything points to it. And the gaslighting that goes on, that we are not only subject to, but some people are victims of,
Right.
because they buy into it, is embarrassing in a society where we should have evolved from being simpletons, and yet there are a lot of people who are just either too tired, too lazy, too dumb, or just blinded by whatever to make rational decisions. And
Right.
I'm not saying that Republicans in general are misguided or dumb or anything
Right.
like that. But if you are presented with facts and you're presented with evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, it's good enough for court, it should be good enough for this, and you still, nope. You're the equivalent of a child covering their ears and going la 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 la
Yeah.
la 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 la.
Yeah.
That's what you are. And dude, just look around, pull the wool off from over your eyes and see what's happening. See what they're doing. And you might be in favor of it now if you're on that side. But remember, anything you put in place now,
yes,
once power shifts, man, payback is, well, you know what payback is.
This is the thing I don't understand, right? Is they're continually trying to make voting harder, but it doesn't just affect one side, one party.
Nope.
This affects all voters. So if you're essentially trying to make it hard for, certain people to not vote, because let's be realistic, it keeps being targeted around certain groups of people. If you're trying to do that, but these are blanket rules. So it actually affects everybody, including your own voters, which is something I really, really don't understand. Greg, over on our YouTube chat this morning, says that we also need to fund the poll workers better, go through what they go through during an election season. It's crazy. I've been a poll worker several different times, in several different areas of the country, depending on where we were living. And I will honestly say that I've been very fortunate. I've never had any major incidents. Now, one of the only things that we ran across was in 2016 or in 2020. I apologize. In Wisconsin, you can register at the polls. And that was my job, that particular election. And you have to bring in something with your address on it that proves your name. Well, somebody handed us, a younger individual, handed us one of his bills that was not open. But we had to open it, verify it, make a copy of it. I mean, there is a process that goes through this entire thing. And I said to him, I need to open this. Would you like to open it, or do you want me to just open it and bring it back to you? And he said, go ahead. And then when I brought it back to him, he's like, well, why did you open my mail? I was like, well, you just told me to open your mail.
Don't know what
we were able to, and then it turned out he wasn't even
public.
And then it turned out he wasn't even in the right place to vote once we got the address and we matched it to the precincts and all of that kind of stuff. But it's those little things. That was the only incident I can say that I ever had, is that we had to basically smooth that out and then send him to the right precinct anyway. So I've been fortunate when I've been a poll worker, but I agree with that statement. But this also, when you start cut funding, are you even going to be able to pay those people? Or are you going to just expect them to volunteer their entire day now to help run elections? Because you're not going to have the funding.
Give them donuts. They get donuts. Every time I go to vote, I see the poll where lots of donuts and treats.
There are donuts and treats, and I can appreciate that.
Okay.
I can appreciate that.
Isn't that enough to do,
Yes. Now, what I appreciate about this conversation is that not only are they cutting funding, Brian, but the U.S. Postal Service has also now proposed some new nationwide rules for absentee voting by mail. Speaking of making things harder.
Yeah, they're the ones who've screwed it up in the first place with their crazy routing.
Right. Including the creation of a new federal list of voters who are eligible to receive and return mail ballots. And under this particular proposal, again, state election officials, going to be at the brunt of it, would submit the names of eligible absentee voters and barcode information for their ballots to the Postal Service. And the goal of this is for those is to help track mailed ballots and allow law enforcement to then compare the number of ballots sent and received if questions arise. Now, I have several issues with this. First and foremost, why is law enforcement involved? The amount of fraud that's happening in our absentee
Give me that stat again.
0.0003% is how much fraud is actually happening. Why is law enforcement involved? And quite frankly, don't they have anything better to do with their time than sit around and match barcodes to absentee ballots?
Well, and you also have to know they know how many ballots there are sent. And they they know how many.
Right.
I sent out, I don't know, how many ballots did you send out? I don't know. Could have been 20, could have been 1.5 million. I have no idea. Of course they know exactly how many ballots they send out.
It's all counted. It's all accounted for.
Yes, and they count them when they come back. Okay, it's any fourth grader could do that math. That's simple.
Yes.
It's one more thing. Jim in Campbellsport, listening on WISS, says, it's been the same song and dance, be it ACA, immigration, or election integrity. Fear sells, and Republicans love fear. Bottom line, they want control.
Yeah.
Can't disagree with you
Can't
there, Jim.
disagree with that. Now, with the Postal Service and the absentee ballots, Wisconsin election officials have already weighed in. They say that they are not going to rush to make any changes because the proposal is going to face legal challenges and may never take effect. But this is it. If you're going to turn it over to the states, they're going to push back because states run their own elections. You don't have a say in what these states do. You can't continue to change the rules and say that the states run it, but the states actually don't because we're going to impose these laws at a national level. You can't keep changing the rules. People are going to keep questioning.
If we put them on a list and count them, there won't be ballot dumps. All the ballots will come in at a nice, even pace. They won't all of a sudden bring in a couple boxes of ballots that were somehow mysteriously brought in.
I want my
late
law
at night.
enforcement doing bigger things than counting ballots, quite frankly.
Good luck with that. All right. The Democrats in Alaska up to some shenanigans. We love good shenanigans.
Great story.
Brian Noonan, Jamie Martinson, Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
All facts, no fiction. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
6:52 right now. We hope that your morning is going well. Gorgeous start to the day. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. We are just about 10 minutes or so away, just over 10 minutes, from giving you your first word of the hour with our Accelerate Your Summer multi-state text-to-win contest. So get that Civic Media app ready and be listening for your new word coming up after 7 o'clock this morning. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning, I'm Brian Noonan. If you ever want to get a hold of us, we'd love to talk to you. 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Be nice to Parker. He is always under stress because I give him so much to worry about.
It really is.
What's he going to say? Is he going to get out on time? Does he remember his name? All the questions that Parker has to worry about as he sits there. We always talk about how the Democrats have to toughen up and we need to fight fire with fire and we got to do the dirty tricks that the Republicans do to keep us in the game. Well, kudos to Alaska.
Yes.
Because it appears, at least according to a Senate Republican, that the Democrats are engaging in, dare I say, chicanery, shenanigans,
Yes, this is so great.
underhandedness. So Alaska's U.S. Senate race has taken an unusual turn. A second candidate named Dan Sullivan entered the race against incumbent Republican, you guessed it, Dan Sullivan. That's right, 2 Dan Sullivans, no waiting. A senator's campaign is accusing Democrats and former Congresswoman that would have been weird.
That would have been really
Congresswoman
weird.
Mary Peltola of recruiting a second Dan Sullivan to confuse the voters, although through Peltola's campaign denies any involvement. We don't want anything to do with the Dan Sullivan kerfuffle. So the newly announced Dan J. Sullivan is an elementary school teacher and cancer survivor who says the current senator has failed to put Alaska first. Both candidates are registered Republicans, and the senator's campaign claims the new candidate's campaign branding looks similar to his own, raising concerns about voter confusion, as if voters need any more help being confused.
Right? I think this
I
story,
love this, though.
This is so great. And the fact that it's not even a Democrat, a registered Democrat with the same name running against the current Dan Sullivan.
That's right.
It's another Republican is just like another little like knife twist in all of this, right?
But
it
I
really
love that
is.
he's accusing the Democrats
Right.
anyway.
Because-
Democrats' fault. He's Republican. Thanks, Biden. Open the borders, let another Dan Sullivan in. That's the problem.
So it's interesting because we've actually talked about this on the show. Alaska uses ranked choice voting, meaning their top 4 candidates in the primary advance to the general election regardless of their party affiliation. So really, Senator Dan Sullivan's campaign, the current Dan Sullivan's campaign, says that it's reviewing possible legal options and argues that the situation could actually undermine voter confidence in the election process. No, I don't think
No,
it
it's
does.
just this guy's got the same name as
It's
you. He's
ranked
allowed to
choice
run.
voting. They're allowed to put in whoever they want in their ranked choice.
That's right.
So there really is no confusion here. The Alaska primary, in case anybody's wondering, is scheduled for August 18th. The race is expected to draw national attention because Republicans and Democrats are competing for a really key Senate seat. This is great. I mean, here's the thing, and you're right. We talk about the fact that that Democrats do a lot of, nicely worded letters and strongly worded statements, and Chuck Schumer likes to get to the podium and tell me how things are actually going to be, and then issue a statement at the end of it. This is hilarious to me.
It is. Find me another Dan Sullivan. All right, I guess.
I think
thankfully, the current Republican senator has a common name because there's a lot of Dan Sullivans running around.
Right.
There's not a lot about Herbert, Herbert Zialoni. It's like, there's no more Herbert Zialonis. What's going on? Find me a Dan Sullivan.
And the fact that it's all done by ranked choice voting in Alaska is even better because people are going to just fill out the ballot. They're going to put their 1, 2, 3, 4s in there. They're going to pick their favorites. And it's going to be interesting to see which Dan Sullivan prevails. But Dan Sullivan, I did do a little digging into
which one?
To the second one. He really does have an outstanding career teaching children. His cancer survival story is pretty epic as far as the surgeries that he had to undergo and some of the things that he went through to still be in the world and to fight cancer. And so the fact that he actually has a story that resonates with the voters is also pretty cool. So
I hope it doesn't come out down the road that he changed his name.
Yeah, that would be weird. That would be weird. But it really wouldn't be, honestly. At that point, I'd be like, that's still good stuff. That's still
maybe his name was Hans Gruber, and he just went, Dan Sullivan sounds better. So I wonder if on the ballot, like the senator now is like going to be, or the senator is going to be the real Dan Sullivan,
right?
Or how they will differentiate
August
themselves.
18th I would say that those will probably be printed very, very soon, if not already in the works. So there you go. You get what you get on the names. You get probably Dan Sullivan and Dan J. Sullivan would be my guess.
Another reason for me to want to go to Alaska. I have so many other reasons I want to go to Alaska. Now I want to go to the land of Dan Sullivan.
Yes.
What we don't know is there's a whole town. Everybody's just named
Dan Sullivan. Yeah. I think
they're on like a glacier somewhere just floating around. It's all Dan Sullivans. Their eyes are really close together. It's just a whole big thing.
There'll never be another not Dan Sullivan from Alaska ever again. Ever.
Yeah, I don't care what your name is. You're from Alaska? Hey, Dan Sullivan. No, that's not my name. To me,
permanently
it is.
in the Senate, there will always be a Dan Sullivan now.
That's how it should. I think the governor puts that in. How are you allowed to run for Senate? You
Dan
need
Sullivan.
To be named Dan Sullivan or Danielle. Let's not be
Daniel too.
But you go by Danny.
Yes.
So
there
that's
you go.
So we'll get the ladies involved. Don't want to keep the ladies out of the Senate. The young Sullivan ladies who are growing up in Alaska, hoping one day to hold a seat of power. We don't want to keep them out.
And if Mary Peltola was involved, kudos, nice play. Oh, very nice, Parker.
Dan.
Nicely done.
When we come back, it is the first text to win word, so get ready for that. And then it's stuff you need to know. The 7 o'clock hour about to kick off. This is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan.
I'm Jamie Martinson. You're listening to the Civic Media Network.
Across the state of Wisconsin, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie is back.
7:06 right now. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Jamie, it is very exciting. It's 7:06. That means it is time for our first text to win word. It's our Accelerate Your Summer Text to Win multi-state contest. It is your daily chance to win $100 and a Wisconsin Dells prize package. What's in the prize package? I could tell you, but that would ruin the surprise. Plus, every time you enter, you are in our grand drawing. You are eligible to win $250 in gas and not and $250 in groceries. So that is a nice combination.
It is.
All you have to do is have the app. And then what? So I'm going to assume, Jamie, everybody has the app.
Yes.
Because our listeners are smarter than average listeners.
They are, absolutely.
And yes, I was just buttering you up. So it's,
we
look
need
at
you
Brian
to text,
trying to kiss up to the listeners.
Now we need you to text it. We need you to text
Yes.
it because once you have your Civic Media app, you need to text us this hour's keyword, which is, here we go, sun, S-U-N. Sun. That is the word you need to get us before 8 o'clock so that you can qualify for all of those prizes that Brian just nicely laid out. And remember, there's going to be multiple chances to enter and qualify throughout today and then the rest of this week into next week as well, Monday through Friday. So again, your word for this hour, sun, S-U-N, is the word you need to text us before 8 o'clock so that you can qualify and we can give you maybe $500 so that you can get your gas and your groceries. I love that. So I already seeing the texts roll in this morning. So please keep those coming so that we can put you into our drawing. And again, one more time, sun, S-U-N. That's the word that you need to text this morning. All right.
And if you just look outside and see what's up in the sky, that big bright ball.
Yes.
And then go, oh, yeah, the text to win word is sun,
It
S-U-N.
is because it is very
All
bright
right.
and shiny today.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be beautiful.
It is. It is.
Well, that's some of the stuff you need to know, but there is always more.
It's a wake-up call in more ways than one. Time for some you need to know.
All right, before we get, I already see somebody misspelled their entry.
I see that. Yes.
It's S-U-N.
There we go.
S-U-N,
Yes.
not S-O-N.
Yes.
S-U-N. I just happened to glance over and I'm like,
Yep.
oh, no. And I was going to say something about that before, but I didn't want to confuse people.
Right.
I go,
right.
which one is it? So I kept my mouth shut
We're
for
on
the
a roll.
first time.
I see it come in correctly now. So we're on a roll. We're
Good.
doing good
All
now.
right,
All right.
everybody- There was only one. There was
Perfect.
only one misspelling, but I don't want that person to
I get it.
miss out.
Sometimes these words are hard. I totally get it. I have to double check
Why are
myself.
we using homonyms?
I know. I have to double check myself.
No
20
homonyms.
times. I know. I don't make the words. I just give the words.
Parker very excited that I actually used the word homonym.
I love homonyms.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Wow.
Homonyms are great.
Kind of impressed.
Parker, every once in a while, all the synapses fire at once. Mostly not. I have my brain is like an old carburetor. Sometimes it misfires, and yet sometimes, man, oh man, when it's going, it's like a beautiful Mustang, just right down the road.
Well, we got past the
And-
forgetting your name thing, so now we're on a roll
Yes,
this
that's
morning.
good. Yeah. Oh yeah. Once I get
Like
that,
an hour. Come on.
well, listen, things change. Couple sips of coffee.
There we go.
A little lively conversation, and we move on to stuff you need to know. This is troubling. Coming out of Kenosha, multiple posters described as anti-immigrant were discovered around Kenosha this week, prompting concern from community members and local advocacy groups. A resident who spotted several of the signs reported them to police after finding them posted near busy streets and businesses. Forward Latino says about 10 of the posters have been found so far and is encouraging residents to report any additional signs that they do happen to see. The group says the message promotes intimidation, division, and fear and is urging the public not to ignore or normalize hateful rhetoric. Forward Latino says many hate and bias incidents target people because of their appearance, language, or accent, regardless of their immigration status. We've seen that a lot. Local law enforcement is investigating, and Forward Latino says it also has contacted the FBI. Residents can report hateful messages through the group's reporting system or by calling 833-LATINO-1. That's 833-528-4601. Come on, Kenosha, you're better than that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anytime you see these types of things, it's disgusting because it just goes to show the rhetoric does affect people, and the fact that when it's coming from all angles, right, people are going to take advantage of being able to say and do these things, and it's never right.
Sure, you're empowered, and Kenosha has a past. We all know that.
Yes.
So you call it out. That's all.
Yep.
Report it, call it out, and
Forward Latino doing
hopefully-
a lot of work on the immigration front right now, and it's been pretty nonstop and endless, as we can all imagine. In other headlines for stuff you need to know, Wisconsin lawmakers approved $7 million to help reduce a waiting list of more than 7,600 people with disabilities who are seeking help finding and keeping jobs. The Division of Vocational Rehabilitation provides services like job training, career counseling, and support for employers hiring people with disabilities. A funding shortfall last year forced the agency to create a waiting list, and about 1,000 additional people have been joining the list each month. The new funding will allow the agency to gradually reduce the backlog, officials expecting the wait list to be eliminated by June of next year. Lawmakers from both parties agreed the funding was needed, though they disagreed over why it took so long to address the problem. There's always got to be a disagreement there.
Sure,
and whether even more funding should have been approved. Now, priority for services will go first to people with the most significant disabilities, followed by those with less severe but still substantial barriers to employment. I don't even know why this was a discussion. Give them the money. Get people who need it the jobs. I mean, my goodness, you can't complain people don't work and then not make sure that they have the path to do so, right? I mean,
but are they the people we want working? We've got to. Is that the money we want to spend? And isn't that DEI if we're just giving people jobs because they're disabled? The stupidity of some of our arguments is crazy.
Yes.
All right, listen. You lunatics. If you're out riding your ATVs and UTVs in Wisconsin this weekend, which I encourage you, get out. It is, again, free park weekend, free fun weekend. You can go to state park.
Yes.
Go out, have fun. But there are new safety rules that took effect on June 1st. We talked about this before they went into action. So if you are an ATV or UTV rider, you must wear a seatbelt. All occupants, drivers, and passengers when riding in a UTV. And it's always more fun to ride in a UTV when you don't fly out of it.
Right. That's
key
component to the day. Yes.
Well, I would think so. But who am I to tell you what to do? I'm not the government. So the government is telling you got to wear a seatbelt. Riders under age of 18 must now wear a DOT-approved helmet, and eye protection is required if the vehicle does not have a windshield. It's now illegal to tow people behind your ATV or UTV on public roads or trails, though limited exceptions do apply on private property and ice, which sounds really scary. It's illegal. New restrictions also limit window tinting on UTVs and create penalties for intentionally damaging ATV or UTV trails and property. The changes come as Wisconsin continues to see high numbers of ATV and UTV crashes. Last year, the DNR reported more than 300 crashes, more than 277 injuries. In 2025, Wisconsin recorded 41 ATV, UTV related deaths. So yes, they're fun. Yes, you can go fast. Yes, you can be outside. Yeah. Be careful. That's all.
Yeah.
We're not telling you how to ride them. Just be careful. Conservation wardens and local law enforcement agencies are going to enforce the new rules through routine patrols with warnings and citations possible for violations.
Good. I mean, I think we should have rules. I mean, obviously, if we're going to do silly, stupid things, and it is really fun. And so when I say silly and stupid, I've actually done this, do the ice and things like that with ATVs and UTVs. It is a ton of fun, but it is really silly and stupid. So do it at your own risk. But, it's hard for us to learn our lessons. But if we're going to do these things, we got to be safe at the same time.
Every time I'm on an ATV, I get nervous because I think I'm going to go too fast and flip it.
Yeah.
So
and it happens, right?
I like to putter along.
Puttering is usually best.
I'm a putterer. Jamie, what's the big story?
Well, the big story is the fact that as we continue to talk about affordable housing and we talk about the lack of housing across the state, Governor Evers is stepping in. The state is going to award $47.8 million in housing tax credits to developers working on affordable housing projects all across the state. Now, this funding will support 35 developments in 15 different counties. So that is really good news because this is very much a statewide issue right now.
Yeah.
The projects are expected to create or preserve 2,128 affordable housing units in 26 communities, providing housing opportunities for about 5,000 Wisconsin residents. So that is very good news. And honestly, here's the thing. It is really good news. It feels like a dent with everybody who is struggling with affordable housing. But you know what? A dent is better than
you got to start somewhere.
Yes, exactly.
You have to. We can't wait until the whole problem can be fixed at once.
Right.
It's compromise.
It is a compromise.
Another part of our broken record. It's compromise.
Well, it's government. It should be compromise. I don't know when we got away from that. But most of the projects are going to be new construction. 28 of these developments will be built from the ground up. The remaining projects involve renovating some existing buildings or also converting properties into housing. 24 developments are going to be geared toward families as well, which is going to be a key for part of this because the other projects will also be designed to meet the needs of seniors. So also taking care of a couple of subsections of population that are really struggling right now. Now, these tax credits, Brian, are intended to help developers overcome rising construction costs, the labor shortages, as well as inflation, so that these affordable projects are actually financially feasible. Because my family did construction my whole life, right? And so I remember the conversations about supplies when there was a recession or there was inflation, because then you would have to tack on more to that bid so that you could get that job, but you might not get that job then because you were not cutting corners, but maybe another guy was to take prices down. And it was all of this. And it is very cutthroat. And it's not because you don't want to do these projects as somebody who is a builder. It's because you literally can't afford to do so. You just sometimes can't. So the fact that this money and this $47.8 million is now in existence for developers, I think this is a great thing for affordability across the board.
Yeah, and we talked about the apartment complex that's going up in Milwaukee the other day, and we have such a housing shortage here. And the cost of housing is so high.
Yes.
So anything we can do to make things a little more affordable.
Yes.
I'm always on board with saving a little money.
And the fact that this is going to be across the state, so it is going to also affect not just your urban areas, but rural communities, small cities, growing suburban areas. All of those places are also feeling pressure with housing right now. And to be clear for anybody listening today, this is very good news. But these programs will not directly subsidize renters. Instead, developers will receive tax incentives in exchange for agreeing to keep a portion of their units affordable for low and moderate income households for at least 30 years. So it's not even a short-term program, right? It's also Governor Evers also making sure that this is set up for some long-term success. Since 1986, Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority has awarded more than $644 million in housing tax credits, creating or preserving more than 61,000 affordable housing rentals across the state. And since 2019, Wisconsin added more than 33,000 housing units aimed for workers, families, seniors, and other residents struggling to find a place to survive. So the work is being done. It's a slow process when you build.
It is slow.
Renovation is always slow, but this certainly helps those developers get some projects accomplished.
Well, and going back to your point real quick, the fact that it is happening in rural communities where we're seeing the population decreases because, one, lack of work, people leaving the smaller areas. So if you're building places that someone can afford, maybe those population centers start to build up again. So it's a good program. When we come back, oh my gosh, are we going to swipe? Are we going to stay? Is Frank going to be curmudgeonly? So many questions as we move in. It is Daybreak. I'm Brian Noonan. She's Jamie Martinson. This is the Civic Media Network.
$7:22 right now. Thank you for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. It is time for Swipe or Stay. We are going to put the politics aside for just a few minutes. We're going to dive into pop culture, figure out what's going on with the lives of celebrities with our senior producer, Frank. How are you today?
I am doing well and not curmudgeon.
Well, we'll see.
Just saying.
The minute we skip one of your stories or swipe from one of your stories,
I don't get offended when you swipe a story. It's when you swipe a good story.
Well, how do we
with
know?
a lot of stuff in it.
That's a point we don't know. We have to guess.
Let's find out.
All right,
let's start. Let's see.
All right.
Let's see what we got.
We're just going into it.
Okay.
Woman proposes banning a certain number in football.
I can only imagine what it is. I'm going to stay.
Stay on this one.
Any guesses on the number?
69.
It is not 69.
7?
21?
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
21.
Not 21.
Okay.
Tanya Brown, the sister of Nicole Brown Simpson, is proposing the NFL ban the wearing of O.J. Simpson's former number, 32.
Nope.
Tanya says the number remains deeply tied to trauma for many people connected to the case. She said, it's also the 32nd year of Nicole and Ron's murders. Every time I see someone on the field with that number, it brings me back and I have trauma. It's important to note Tanya is not officially organizing a campaign yet, but instead hoping the NFL just takes her wishes into consideration, which we know the NFL is so great at hearing other people out.
So are we supposed, if we started banning the numbers of everybody who, I mean, OJ's crimes were more serious than just spousal abuse, but allegedly. But all right, we've got a lot.
That's the other thing.
Ray Lewis's number got to go.
Right.
Everybody's number got to go. Who beats their wife? I'm sorry for their loss, obviously, but stop it. It's a number. Just don't watch football then.
Here's the other thing, too. We're also hitting a point in time where there's a whole generation who won't even remember O.J. Simpson other than what they've read about the case, not so much what's on the field, right? So there's that.
I mean, I know his history. I was, when Frank first said O.J. Simpson, I was like, what was his number? I knew it was in the 30s because it was a running back, but I was like, I don't remember.
I don't know. This one feels like a stretch, even though I'm sorry for their loss. It feels like a bit of a stretch. I don't believe Roger Goodell is probably going to hear this one out.
No.
The people directly involved in the case is a dozen at best.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, no sympathy here.
No.
And I read that and I was like, oh, you're not actually organizing. You're just speaking it into existence. That's
all right.
That's not going to work.
That doesn't work in this world.
Bye, Felicia.
Pop star granted restraining order from stalker.
Oh. I'll stay.
I know how much Parker loves pop star stalker stories, so I'm going to swipe.
Parker?
I was going to swipe anyway. Before that really strange accusation, Brian.
All right, we're swiping.
Commit to the bit, Parker.
Marvel actor refuses to host Saturday Night Live.
Oh, I saw the headlines of this. Stay.
I want to stay because I like Marvel and Saturday Night Live.
Oh, now we got Brian's interests. All right. Yeah. We will not be seeing... Can we guess which superhero, Brian?
It's probably a second-tier superhero. I'll say Jeremy Renner, but
it is not Jeremy Renner. We will not be seeing Tom Holland, aka Spider-Man.
No
Spider-Man?
No,
Why Spider-Man?
Hosting SNL.
What's his beef?
All right. Holland appeared on an episode of Amy Poehler's podcast, Good Hang, saying he's heavily dyslexic and is scared to read the cue cards.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said, for me, I can read fine, but when I have to read out loud, it just becomes like kind of a mental block and I can freeze up.
Or did he went on to say,
yep, he's really lucky that he's been offered the hosting gig multiple times, but it's not for him, and he's turned it down every single time.
Wow. Who knew Spider-Man was dyslexic?
All right.
Don't you work with him at some point and be like, hey, we'll get you through this? Like like you're an actor.
Yeah, but if he's that nervous and his whole,
I mean, if you're that uncomfortable, and I'm going to assume that just going through school as a kid, and I'm sure there was a whole lot that went into that. Yeah. So I could respect that, right? Like I can totally respect that.
It.
A man's got to know his limitations.
He's so talented, though, right? Like you would love to see him in that role for sure.
Yeah, but then I don't want to see him embarrass himself. And if he's uncomfortable and he's not going to be his best, because in the back of his mind, he's always going to be thinking about,
Yeah.
And his agent's like, oh, they really want you to do this. I really wish you would do this.
And then after, if something goes wrong, he goes, I told you not to do this.
I told you. You should have done that.
But
kudos
to him for knowing his limitations and being honest about it.
Right. Artist helps push Vermont bill into law.
Oh, I'll stay.
Syrup law? I don't care. Swipe.
Syrup law.
I'll stay.
Parker's staying. Noah Khan has shot into superstardom as of late and helped get a bill passed in his home state of Vermont. Khan testified earlier this year before the Vermont State Senate to support Bill H-512, which aims to crack down on predatory resale practice and ticket scalping.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
no syrup at all.
No, Khan said, as an artist that cares deeply about the fan experience and accessibility of concert tickets, this bill is a critical step in eliminating predatory resale behaviors and offer Vermonters a great solution for exchanging and reselling tickets on a safe marketplace. The new law was officially approved by Vermont Governor Phil Scott last week. The legislation caps Vermont's ticket resale prices at 110% of their original value for concerts, sporting events, and other live entertainment. Now, this is great coming from a guy whose ticket prices right now on resale market are insane.
Are they? You
The
guys will be
cheapest
proud of me.
ticket-
I just started listening to him.
Brian, cheapest ticket at Wrigley Field,
Yeah.
$450.
Wow.
That's Wrigley Field just gouging everybody.
That's everywhere.
Don't like it.
That's
Don't like it at
swipers
all.
say.
All right. Thank you, Frank. Yes. Oh, new music, new everything. We are going to come back, and when we do, we're going to play Gubernatorial match game. What? I don't know either. We'll figure it out. It's Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Fairly solid and better than expected. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
7:35 right now. Thank you for joining us this morning on the Civic Media Network. Brian, we are still taking qualifiers for at least 25 more minutes. Plenty
That's
of time.
right.
In our Accelerate Your Summer Text to Win multi-state contest, it's your daily chance to win $100 and a Wisconsin Dells prize package. I've been to Wisconsin Dells quite a few times. There's some fun stuff to
With
do.
a prize package?
Not with a prize package, but
Oh, you
world
missed out.
capital of water parks over at Wisconsin Dells. Some really great motels and resorts, too. Plus, every entry is going to put you into our grand prize drawing for $250 in gas and another $250 in groceries. We have texts still rolling in, but we have to give the word again, right?
All right. Well, the word for this hour is sun. S-U-N. Sun.
How do you spell it?
S-U-N.
There we go.
The U is important. S-U-N. Sun.
It is.
So text that in, and you'll be entered in the giveaway for today and entered into the grand prize giveaway. It is time for a brand new game. I don't understand it. It's called Gubernatorial Match Game. So, Frank, please explain.
It's super easy.
Okay.
So as you know, we have our field of candidates, right?
Yes.
To be the
One
next governor of
Republican and-
Wisconsin.
They had to put
One
their
Republican and 8 Democrats.
They had to get their 2,000 signatures in Monday or Tuesday. It's been a long week, and some of them are still being verified, but it looks like if you're watching on the stream, this will be our pool of candidates, especially as we go into the primary season on August 11th. So what are we doing here today?
So here's how this game is going to work. I'm going to read a statement that represents a candidate.
Okay.
Jamie and Brian will be playing against each other. You both get a guess.
Okay.
Okay.
A candidate could be named more than once.
Okay. All right.
Throughout the game?
Throughout
Could
the
be named
game.
more than
Okay.
once throughout the
All
game.
right.
Okay.
All right.
I'm not saying they are, but they could be.
Now, where is your Gene Rayburn style really skinny microphone?
You know, it wasn't in the budget for this year.
Right, next year.
It's at the top of my list.
Maybe for
Okay.
the generals.
We also need those curtains that you come out from. Right?
I need a lot of things.
Okay, all right.
A nice leisure suit,
He walks out of the drapes from his window.
Big wide tie.
big wide tie, all of it.
Okay, all right.
All of it.
All right.
Crazy
All right.
Frank
So the
said.
person with the most points wins the game. All right.
Okay.
All right.
We're gonna. Okay. We ready?
Yeah.
We're ready. All right, let's do this. Let's get to know our candidates.
All right. This candidate is a former CDC intelligence officer
Oh.
that was on the first plane into New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh. Gosh. I'm
We're starting off hard.
gonna say, because of the nursing background, this is where my head goes. Sarah Rodriguez.
Brian.
Who is Mandela Barnes?
Jamie gets the point.
Ooh,
It is
yay.
Sarah Rodriguez.
I had no idea.
Nicely done.
Interesting background. Okay.
This is directly from her website. I thought it was a really interesting fact.
It is very interesting. That was just sheer guess and using that just her background on that one. Okay.
So
All
right now, Jamie's winning our gubernatorial match
Oh
game,
my
1
gosh.
point to nothing. Brian's got nothing on the board, but it's okay.
How many
There's
do I
plenty
have,
of time.
Frank?
We're early. We're early.
0.
We're
All
so
right.
early
0
in this game.
Why do I
Zero.
think? Why do I think that curmudgeonly comment is coming?
I don't
back
know what
behind
you're
me?
talking about.
Go
We're
ahead.
moving on to question number 2.
Very
All right, here we
vindictive
go.
game show host. I'm not.
We've talked
Very
about this
basic
one. This
cable.
one may be a little bit easier than the first one.
Okay.
Which candidate scored a big endorsement from the Wisconsin Education Association Council?
I know
Ooh.
this one.
All right, you go first.
Kelda Roy's.
It is Kelda Roy's. That's my guess too.
It is Kelda Roy's. WEAC President Peggy Wirtz Olson said Senator Kelda Roy's is a leader who has done her homework on solutions to the school funding crisis, and she has a broad, deep base of knowledge and labor in Wisconsin public education. She has a great track record of collaboration and responsiveness, and she has proven that she wants to listen, learn, and partner with public school professionals.
Right. That was a big endorsement when that came out.
Huge endorsement. I know we've talked about it a couple times.
Yeah.
Came out
It's-
a while ago. It's
been
that endorsement came out.
Couple months ago now.
Yeah. March.
Were you surprised how early that endorsement came in the race?
I was, because those usually take a little bit longer, especially with a field this crowded, right? Especially on the Democratic side. So I personally was. Brian.
Except that she had a track record, a big track
Sure.
record, like a lot of them do.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right, after 2, Jamie has all 2 points. Brian is on the board with 1, so congratulations to Brian. He did not get shut out.
It was very early in the game. I knew he'd get
Yeah,
points.
it's a second question.
I know, and I'm giving you your props.
Are you?
Look, this isn't about winning or losing, Brian. It's about meeting our candidates,
It is.
right?
It's about knowing who they are, because there's a lot of them.
If it's not about winning or losing, why are you keeping such strenuous score?
Because I enjoy it.
I know. Let's go. Number 3.
This candidate ran the largest science museum in the state, Discovery World in Milwaukee, for 11 years.
Oh, that's new. I'm going to say Joel Brennan, just as a guess. I have no idea.
That's who I was going to say too, so I will say it.
It is Joel Brennan. One little thing on his website as I'm looking through policies and whatnot, his big thing is most people aren't asking for miracles. They want to afford where they live, send their kids to a good school, and have a governor who will fight back when Trump threatens our way of life.
I like that.
All right, I like that. Science.
Joel Brennan doesn't make a lot of
No.
headlines. We don't hear too much about him. That's what kind of gave me the inkling about the science, because I was like, I don't know too much. About Joel Brennan.
He's a little bit more in the background. So no, that's an interesting fact. This
is
is
an
interesting. Like we are actually learning a lot about
We're
these
learning.
people. I love this. Okay.
And yes, for everybody out there listening, we have not had Joel Brennan on. We have reached out to his camp, so we do hope he does join us at some point in the show.
Yeah, we'd love to.
All
have
right,
him.
Jamie's leading 3 points to 2 as we move on. And if you're just listening, we're playing the gubernatorial match game, where I'm reading statements that identify some of these candidates. Brian and Jamie are competing to see who gets the most points in matches. Number 4, which candidate served as the dam tender on the Willow Flowage for 29 years?
I know this, Tom Tiffany.
Earning
Tom
him
Tiffany.
the nickname of the Dam Man.
Tom
Tiffany.
I saw that commercial on TV the other day. I went, oh,
Yep. The
wow.
Damn man.
He's a damn man. Did it.
Oh, Tommy Tiff. Now, he's very much leaning into phrases such as law and order, conservative values, and common sense laws. If you're looking at the candidates, that those 3 things basically sum up Tom Tiffany's stances. And he's the damn man. If
He
you
is the
haven't
damn
heard.
man.
Damn man.
He is the damn man.
And
yes.
he loves the current president.
He is the person endorsed by President Donald Trump.
Yes. Yes.
Moving on, this candidate is known for their Badger Basics plan.
Ooh.
Ooh, David Crowley.
David Crawley. Yeah. He joined us
Now
to
we're
talk
just
about
getting
this,
easy.
right?
He did.
He did
We
talk
love
about
David.
this.
We had a couple of technical issues with
We
his
did.
audio.
We did.
But
But you
correct
can
me if
always
I'm
go back.
wrong. He did tell us that he hates the Chicago Bears the most as well.
He did.
He did.
He did.
He did.
And you can listen to that. Go back and listen to that interview on Spotify.
Yes, please do. Yeah, it
We're
was
Just a
all
quick
our-
preview. David Crowley says affordability, care, and opportunity are the 3 pillars of Badger Basics.
and David
He
Crawley's
dives deeper into it.
And
on
David
the
Crawley's a
podcast.
guy who ended up needing the affordable housing as a kid and really came up through the ranks of not having a lot. So he kind of gets what families are struggling with, has 3 daughters of his own as well. So
Fun guy to talk to.
he
too.
is. He's a good guy. These are all great candidates. That's the
Yes,
bad part
yeah.
about this field,
Yeah.
right? Is they're all sensational candidates. They're all really great people, and they're really laying out some great plans for Wisconsin. So this is why I'm assuming you decided to play gubernatorial candidate, because we do have so many choices, Frank.
Well, and the other thing that I've noticed with the Democrats, when I'm getting all these statements together, a lot of these are interesting facts because I think most of them are on the same page of
Yes.
the issues they want to tackle. So there's really no
Yeah.
issue that really separates them, which is why I think this race is going to be actually pretty tight.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting when Marquette does their polling. I know we talked earlier today about the president's approval rating, and that new poll that came out. They haven't done another one for the gubernatorial race, so it is going to be fascinating to see if that race is tightened, if people are less on the fence than they were just a few months ago. So now that we're getting closer to the primary.
And maybe after gubernatorial match game, some people have
Right?
changed their mind.
That's right.
I know.
Joel Brennan ran a science museum.
The
Hey,
largest
Park,
in the state.
He's my
Parker,
guy.
have you noticed that since I got on the board a lot, Frank has dropped the scoring?
Jamie is in the
notice
lead
that.
right now with 5 points. Brian close behind with 4. He's only down 1.
All
He's got a
right, this
couple
is-
of questions
This is
left.
very even. This is good.
Which candidate announced their candidacy while carrying their father's auto union workers jacket?
Oh. I'm going to say Mandela. But that's
Missy
a guess.
Hughes.
This is like,
Jamie is right. It is former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
Oh, boy.
that was some drawn out
Oh, man.
suspense there. Thank
You guys have been neck and neck
We
with
have.
most of these questions, but Jamie takes a commanding lead.
Commanding.
6-4.
Wow, all right.
Commanding.
Is it a good old fashioned shellacking?
It is.
Really? 6-2?
Man, we've
or
got
6
quite
to
a
4?
tilt here.
6 to 4 is a good old fashioned shellacking. All right.
Mandela is
Let's
very
play.
much focusing on workers' rights, wanting to expand apprenticeship programs and trade schools to ensure that when companies invest in Wisconsin, they're employing Wisconsinites.
All right. And again, that's why his dad's jacket, his roots are deep into that. I believe, too, and I'm not sure if I believe his mom was a teacher. Is that correct? And one of them has a
I
mom.
would have to look that one up.
Please, anybody listening, don't quote me on that. But working class family is where Mandela came from, for sure.
All right, moving on. This candidate has made refusing PAC money a centerpiece of their campaign.
Francesca Hong.
Francesca Hong. Yep.
It is Francesca Hong. Fran isn't taking a dime from corporate PACs, and she sure as hell isn't self-funding her campaign, which comes straight from her website.
That's right.
She said this is a grassroots campaign powered by working people, not billionaires.
All right. And that would make sense with Francesca's background as a small business owner and a single mom, working mom. So, yeah. And you know what? I can always get behind a candidate who is willing to give up the PAC money.
Right.
We all know, if you've listened to the show, how I feel about PACs. Not my favorite things.
Which candidate's website says they are not a politician and that's the point?
Ooh, Missy Hughes.
Missy Hughes.
It is Missy Hughes.
Yeah, she's a business person.
Appointed by Governor Tony Evers to lead Wisconsin's Economic Development Corporation. Under Missy's leadership, major companies like Milwaukee Tool, Microsoft, Eli Lilly, Kikkoman, and more are committed to invest over $10 billion and create 45,000 good-paying jobs across Wisconsin. Pretty good blurb to have.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Parker doing a little fact check for us. Mandela's mom was, in fact, a teacher. So thank you for looking that up for us, Parker. Now, you get a point now, Parker. Parker gets
I'm
a
on
point.
the board.
Parker's on the board. Not shut out, Parker. A good old
I'm not
fashioned
sure.
shellacking.
I got shellacked, but
You are getting shellacked.
That was great.
I'm just getting beat.
Look at us
Oh,
learning
one
about
last
the candidate.
one.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
30 seconds. This candidate accidentally wrote the wrong date on his application and 500 signatures were thrown out.
Ooh, Kurt
Anybody?
Bennett. Kurt
Bags down.
Hey, he has until Sunday afternoon to file affidavits seeking to fix the errors. There's also an opportunity for others to challenge the signatures he's turned in. That's the match game. Jamie wins.
Yay! Congratulations. How often do you play the lottery? We'll talk about it on Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Local news, community stories, and the conversations that matter most. Now, more Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
7:52 right now. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning, I'm Brian Noonan. 855-75-CIVIC is how you get a hold of us. Jamie, we got to tell people one more time. You got about 7 minutes.
Yes.
7 minutes to get in for this hour's word on our Accelerate Your Summer Text to Win multi-state contest. It is your chance to win a daily prize of $100 and a Wisconsin Dells prize package. And every time you enter, you're going to be in our grand prize drawing for $250 in gas and another $250 in groceries. All you need to do is text a keyword. Whoa, thankfully Jamie knows the key.
The keyword that you need to text before 8 o'clock, SUN, S-U-N. Sun is your word that you need to text us using your Civic Media app. And remember, you can download that for free in your Apple or your Google store. If you don't have it and you think, oh, I missed out, no, you did it, because we're going to do this again at 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. We're going to do it again all day tomorrow and then all Monday through Friday of next week. So you still have plenty of opportunity to win and to get qualified. But Sun is the word that we need to get before 8 o'clock this morning so that you can qualify right this very minute using your Civic Media app, S-U-N. That is the word that we need. So there you go.
All
Can
right.
you tell I've gone through that list a few times in my head?
You have. You did it very well. Spell that word one more time, just because we've only had...
Sun, S-U-N. S-U-N is the word that we need. All right.
Well, everybody's getting it right now.
You guys are snappy this morning.
Trying to take care of people.
I love that.
I didn't even know this was a thing.
I didn't either.
How often do you guys play the lottery? 855-752-4842. And if you win, where do you go? Well, guess what? The Lottery Mobile Validation Unit is coming across the winner wagon.
Yes.
If you like that terminology
so
better,
cool.
And I do, it is a winner wagon. So it's going around the state, making a stop in La Crosse on June 10th from 10 to 2 at the Quick Trip on Ward Avenue. Because then, if you have won anything up to $200,000, you don't have to go to the lottery office in Madison or Wisconsin or Milwaukee. Rather, you can just go to the Quick Trip, pick yourself up a couple dunkers, and cash in your winning ticket.
Here's my question.
$200,000.
I think this is really cool. It's very convenient. I was very excited when this press release came into my email because I was like, okay, this is a neat way to play the lottery. Here's the thing, though. First and foremost, my biggest question is, how many people in Wisconsin are winning up to $200,000? I would kind of like to know that little fact. And two, if you have a ticket worth that much, are you actually waiting for the winner wagon to pull up to your town so you can cash it in, or are you making a trip to Milwaukee or Madison? I get it; they're trying to make it convenient, but at the same time,
waiting. I would probably wait a little bit and talk to because even like $200,000 is life-changing, but it's not life.
Right.
It's life-altering. It's not
Sure.
life-changing.
Yep.
So I'd still talk to, somebody about, okay, what do I do? What are my tax implications?
If done right, it could be life-changing, right?
Yes.
Right?
It could start you on the way to changing your life.
Sure.
But I'm guessing most of these are like $100,
maybe
$50. Yeah, maybe $500.
I usually win $1.
Yeah, I'm lucky if I win $1.
Exactly.
Maybe I think the most I've ever won is $3.
Yeah.
Because you can tell I'm rolling in it, and but I think it's a great way to spread the word about the lottery.
It is.
Get people out there. They won't be paying you in cash because my first thought was, how much cash are they going to be carrying?
Right.
They're not carrying cash.
No.
They're paying you in a check. So don't get any Ocean's 11 kind of thoughts in your head.
Yeah. There's no heist here.
But I mean, that's cool. Go and you don't have to go. And again, there's never a bad time to go to Quick Trip.
No. I mean, there's always an opportunity.
Get yourself some milk in a bag.
Right.
Get
That's
some
always
dunkers.
good. It's always
and
good.
one of those mystery rolling sausages. And then you head out.
They also have really great croissants now too, so
Do they?
that's always good. Yeah, they're fat. They come and go fast. I believe they also have like little waffle sandwiches now, which also come and go fast. And in that
My
hot
favorite
bar.
thing there, they make these little at breakfast. They make the little breakfast burrito, and then later in the day they have a pepperoni pizza burrito.
Ooh,
When
that
Fat
sounds
Brian
delicious.
used to travel back and forth to Milwaukee every day,
Yeah.
part of the reason Fat Brian was Dunkers and pepperoni pizza burritos.
Okay.
On the way home, it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
I need a pick me up.
I didn't realize the other day until I was in Quick Trip for something that how many different flavors of Dunkers there actually are now, right? Like there used to be just glazed in chocolate, and then you would throw a cherry in.
Dunkers.
Now there's blueberry. I think I saw a
Yes.
raspberry in there, and so there's there's all sorts of flavors of Dunkers. So when you get your buck from the winter wagon, if you're me, you can go in there and you can put that towards your Dunkers.
Yeah,
or another lottery ticket.
Well, here's the thing: you put it toward a Dunker, you're a sure winner.
Yes.
You put it toward the lottery, you could just be throwing your money
you could.
away.
You could.
So
Absolutely.
depending on your day, chocolate or regular Dunker. I go regular Dunker over chocolate all the time, and I'm a big chocolate guy, so that's saying something.
I don't like and I'm not saying this about Dunkers. I just always have a problem about anything that isn't authentic chocolate. So I will always go plain just because some chocolate, you get it in your mouth and you're like, this isn't really that chocolatey or doesn't have that great of a flavor. And I've never had a chocolate Dunker to compare, right?
Well,
I
it's
couldn't
like
say that.
chocolate. It would be chocolate cake with glaze, basically.
Yeah,
like
see,
a glazed
But
chocolate
not all
donut.
chocolate cake is created equal, and not
That's
all of it
true.
tastes
That's
good,
true.
right? So, and I don't want to
That's
take
true.
that chance to not like it and
I
have it
gotcha.
tarnish the name of Dunker. So I'm going to stick with the plain because nobody wants to tarnish the name of a Dunker. Now, the
Dunker Talk, Thursday mornings at 7.
this winter wagon is actually a new service from the Wisconsin Lottery, and they're going to be doing this periodically. So this is going to be appearing throughout the state over the next few months. And really, it's just a way to bring the services to people in rural communities who might be playing the lottery and winning some cash. So you got to appreciate that. So check it out if you're in the La Crosse area. Get your buck, get your Dunker, have a good time.
I am not usually a big lotto guy until it gets high up there.
Yeah.
Because, would I like $200,000?
Sure.
Yeah, of course. I'm not an idiot. But would I like $400 million
Yes.
or $1 billion
Even more.
You know
Even
it.
more.
If you're listening on WMDX, goodbye. We will talk to you tomorrow. Stephanie Miller up next. But we are going to come back and talk about a new treatment center in Chippewa Falls. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak.
I'm Jamie Martinson. It is 7:59 right now, and you are listening to the Civic Media Network.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. It is 6 minutes after 8 now. If you are in Appleton and Oshkosh, listening on WISS, or in Eau Claire, listening on 93.5 The Tap, or in Hayward, listening on WBZH, we are glad that you decided to join us today. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And I'm Brian Noonan. Glad you are here. Well, Wisconsin has a significant shortage of substance abuse centers. An estimated 78% of people who need treatment don't receive it, leaving many residents without access to care. Chippewa Falls is putting a little dent in that problem. On Tuesday, officials from Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan were in Chippewa Falls for a ribbon-cutting ceremony of a new facility. Here to tell us more is James Kelly, senior radio journalist at WCFW and WSCM. James, thanks for being here this morning. Things are popping in the Chippewa Valley. Well, the new center does come and replaces one that closed in 2024. What happened that one closed, and what is the need in the Chippewa Valley for this new center?
Yeah, that was actually part of the kind of wave of HSHS and Prevea clinic closures way back when. And, it actually lines up pretty closely with when I first joined Civic Media and moved out here to the Chippewa Valley. So it's kind of nice to see that come full circle. And, that was one of the first stories I really covered out here, the closure of that center. And now here I am 3 years later talking about a new facility going up there.
So what kind of gap did that particular closure leave for people who might have been struggling with substance abuse issues in the Chippewa Valley? Because, it's hard to find treatment centers in rural areas as it is.
Yeah, that's definitely what the big problem was. And quite frankly, the size of that former facility was not nearly what it needed to be
Sure.
to meet the full needs of this community. This has been a multi-year effort by Eau Claire County, Chippewa County, Dunn County, pretty much every county in western Wisconsin to kind of address the rise in opioid addiction issues over the past decade. They've done a phenomenal job of, getting those harm reduction vending machines up, moving Sharps disposal boxes. I'm sure every 6 months I'm in awe at how much medication is collected during those drug take-back days, especially locally compared to, California and Texas are the only 2 states that have collected more than us
Wow.
in total. Wisconsin has a
Yikes.
pretty significantly smaller population than those. So they've done a really good job with this over the past few years, and this is kind of the latest in that effort. When that treatment center closed, a lot of people were forced, if you needed treatment, you could maybe find room in Eau Claire at another treatment center, maybe in Menominee, but for the most part, there are limits to how many people those facilities can serve. So you might have to go to Minneapolis, you might have to go to La Crosse, you might have to go to Superior, you might have to go to all these different places where you're adding hours and hours of travel time to get services that you desperately need because you lost them in your hometown. And, this new facility, the LSS Ellie Phillips Center, which was officially named this week, they're going to be able to have 50-bed inpatient recovery center. They'll be able to help a lot of people with evidence-based treatment, peer support groups, kind of relapse prevention education. It's kind of this full service putting together of all the services that were lost during those closures and kind of in that interim period where things were opening back up. So it'll be a big boost for them. And there's also the Rogers Behavioral Health Center, which it broke ground earlier this year. When that's completed, it'll be kind of more focused on mental health and substance abuse treatment. So not quite kind of that laser focus just on substance abuse. But it's a service that is desperately needed in this area, and this is going to go a long way for people.
Who are going to be the residents at the new center, James, and how did the community react to the news that this new center was going to open?
Yeah, it's been really positive from the community. There were a lot of people there from the Eau Claire area Chamber of Commerce and the Chippewa Falls area Chamber of Commerce. They've put a lot of work in. They got $1 million in grant funding from the state. There was State Senator Jeff Smith and Jesse James were both there. That's a Democrat and a Republican who worked together on this bill to get that grant funding out. They're just about near there. They're trying to raise $4.6 million in total to cover the renovations and to also kind of support the treatment services that they are going to be offering when they start kind of taking people in this fall. So it's a lot of bipartisan effort. It's a lot of community fundraising effort. And it's one of those projects that when it comes together, everyone can be really proud of the work that they had done to make this a reality.
We're talking with James Kelly. He's a senior radio journalist for WCFW and WSCM here at Civic Media. And you were talking a little bit about the fundraising goal. They're not quite there yet at the final goal. Is that correct?
Yeah, as of this week, when they officially unveiled the building, they were only about $150,000 away.
Okay.
You would hope that a big event like the grand opening
Sure.
of this facility might spur a few extra donations, and perhaps they are kind of reaching that goal as we speak this week. But it seems like they've certainly raised the funding they needed to go forward with opening the center and being able to treat these people.
Wow.
Well, it sounds like a great thing. The Chippewa Valley, very much in the news this week. What is it about the area that's drawing all this coverage and all these events?
Well, the Chippewa Valley is just a great place to live for everybody. And I always say that the people out here are super smart and they love their news. That is a big thing in Wisconsin that I didn't get back in New York. Man, people are so engaged out here. Just every single person has some idea of what's going on in the political world and how it's affecting them. It's encouraging to see a lot of times.
And I know you've got a busy day in the area tomorrow. The president and Derek Van Orden set to speak to basically about manufacturing in rural communities. And so I'm assuming you will have a very busy day with coverage around that, near that tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a lot of farming coverage going on right now. Former Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes was actually in Chippewa County yesterday talking to farmers about kind of the impact of tariffs and the trade wars that are going on, gas prices. So this is definitely going to be, I think, maybe the main issue that people are focused on come election season. How are we, supporting the farmers in this area who are really struggling with the higher prices, especially the input costs specifically have been something that I've heard from farmers where it's hard to plan because of the tariffs. And even when they're planning it out, things like potash from Canada, these things are going up almost 100%. You have to spend a lot more of your input costs on these things that you need for your farm to continue going. And that really hurts you down the line when you're trying to, what if you have to fix a piece of machinery? What if the harvest doesn't really come out the way you want it to come out? Now you're talking about potentially selling your farm to a larger farm conglomerate. It's a big issue out here, and it's certainly going to be one of those things that's at the front of mind.
And James, as you get ready for the president's visit tomorrow, and you're talking to farmers across the Chippewa Valley, are they still in the Republican camp, or are they becoming disillusioned because of all these costs going up, like you said, and the difficulties with the tariffs and everything else?
I would say there's definitely a few that have been kind of former Republican voters, self-identified. There's been a lot of town halls about the farming issues and the tariff issues that people have been facing. And a lot of residents have shown up and said, listen, I did vote for Donald Trump, and now I am kind of regretting that because my farm is struggling. We can't afford anything. Our health insurance prices have gone up so high that we don't have health insurance anymore. And there's a lot of people who are maybe not ready to make that switch over to the Democratic Party, but they're saying, we want President Trump to know this is hurting us. We are struggling right now.
James, from somebody who lives in the area, and when you're out and about and you're talking to people, you mentioned with like the treatment center that it was a very bipartisan effort. How does that play in the Chippewa Valley of Wisconsin?
It's definitely nice to have a bipartisan effort every once in a while. It's not something that there's been a ton of, but I will say for specific issues like this and like the Rogers Behavioral Health Center, these are issues that have been worked on in a bipartisan way, and they really didn't have that much of a problem getting through the legislature and then getting the funding released by the Joint Finance Committee. There have been if you remember the emergency funding for the HSHS closures, where Governor Evers used that partial veto to kind of expand what that money could be used for. And then that money ended up sitting in Madison until it expired and it was no longer available for the emergency departments out here. So it's those kinds of bills that I think really frustrate people in the Chippewa Valley because there's a clear need for this. Other hospital organizations are coming in and trying to fill the gap. Mayo Clinic in Eau Claire is working on an expansion project at their emergency department right now because they don't have the capacity to continue serving this many people. It's one of those things where people want the politics to stop and just say, we need money for emergency departments right now. I don't care if that's limited to emergency departments or if some of it can go to mental health care services, which are also needed, substance abuse services, which are also needed. So when it comes to something like the Ellie Phillips Center and getting that $1 million in grant funding, or the Rogers Behavioral Health Center and getting $10 million in funding, it's nice to see that everyone's on the same page. It says, this is needed, let's get it done.
Well, James, before we let you go, I maybe we missed it, or maybe I missed it, and I was rereading your story. You can always read James's stuff on civicmedia.us. Just go look for The Tap in Eau Claire. Are they? I know they're still trying to get some funding, and they were pretty close, as you said, about $150,000 away the other day. Are they ready to open? When are patients going to be able to avail themselves of the new center?
Yeah, they will be offering services this fall. That's a done deal at this point. This extra funding that they're trying to raise, I believe the original projection for how much the actual renovations to the facility would cost, because it is the same facility as the Libertas Center. They renovated it, expanded it, made it a little more, they improved it a bit. So they will be able to offer services in the fall. I believe $3.5 million was for the renovations, and the rest was to continue supporting the treatment services they're going to be offering. They've eclipsed that point already. The facility is built, so they're ready to go this fall.
Okay, cool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, James, thank you as always for joining us. We appreciate it. You can always listen to James on The Tap or read him on civicmedia.com. James Kelly, senior radio journalist at WCFW and WSCM. James, have a great rest of your day. Good luck getting into the rally tomorrow, or the speech. I don't know if it's an actual rally. but it always turns into one.
It does.
Always does. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
James. Take care.
As we bring James on today and we talk about the treatment facility, I think one of the things that always sticks out to me is it doesn't really matter where you're at in the state. This is what I take away from this conversation. All of the needs are basically the same, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what keeps going back to me. And when James said that that people are glad to see this bipartisan effort to get something like a treatment center or a behavioral health center in a place that really needs it. People are tired. I'm personally tired of the bickering in politics, and I'm tired of the polarization because none of that actually helps people. What we saw happen in Chippewa Falls with this with this treatment center and with a behavioral health center, that's what actually is affecting people. And the fact that we could get two senators to come together to throw support behind something.
Force a smile on themselves.
That's so important to actual people, right? That had nothing to do with the ballot box. I don't know. I'm really tired of the polarization. I don't imagine I'm alone. And the fact that, we sometimes see these glimpses of what it's like for the parties to work together to get real things done. I don't want to be too optimistic because I know that there is a lot in the way, but it does leave me somewhat hopeful when we can get things like this done on a bipartisan level and at a community level.
And it's needed, as you mentioned, all over the state, especially rural communities. They're affected. 14 Wisconsin counties have no formal substance abuse treatment center, and they need them because we in Wisconsin have fewer treatment centers than the national average.
Yeah.
It's nuts. It's all outpatient, and that doesn't always work. All right, listen, we've got a lot of things to get to.
We do.
And snap new rules. What if you're really sick?
Yeah.
How is that going to work? We'll talk about that and more after this. It's Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
From Lake Superior to Lake Michigan, this is Wisconsin's Morning Conversation. Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. Hopefully, you are having a bright, sunshiny, beautiful start to your day like we are in Madison. Thank you for having us on. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. How are you feeling about these new SNAP work rules and all the changes to SNAP, which we know are going into effect very soon? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. Well, they've added these work requirements, so you have to go to work. The new requirements are scheduled to take effect by January. Many adults who have to regularly prove they're working, right? Or you're attending school or you're volunteering. Well, health advocates are concerned that the rules could affect people with serious illnesses such as cancer, HIV, and other chronic conditions because under the new guidelines, having a medical diagnosis alone might not automatically qualify you for an exemption if you are still physically able to work. So, sure, you might have HIV or you might have, maybe you're going through chemo treatments or whatever. Well, you could still work, says the people who are not sick and still go to work. So federal officials estimate about 5 million people could lose Medicaid coverage over time. Many experts believe a large share of those losses could result from paperwork issues, missed deadlines, reporting errors, or difficulty navigating the new requirements. And advocacy groups for patients warn that losing Medicaid coverage, even temporarily, could interrupt cancer treatments, medications, doctor visits, and other ongoing care. So once again, we're going to put a rule in that wasn't really necessary because while Jamie doesn't have one of her 0.0000003% facts for us, which I always love and I'm glad you have it on hand all the time, we don't have one of those for how much fraud, but we know that, yes, there is some Medicaid and Medicare fraud. Usually, though, that has been perpetrated by doctors and insurance companies, not people on Medicaid.
Yeah.
But I
I
digress.
mean, here's the thing when I hear this story and when I read it yesterday, I've thought about the numerous family members that I've personally had who have had cancer or passed away from cancer. And let's be honest. None of us sitting here today can say that we're immune from somebody with a cancer diagnosis, right? We've all known somebody. Maybe we've experienced it ourselves. Here's the thing, though. have you ever seen somebody, in some cases, going through cancer treatment? It's brutal. Depending on the treatment, depending on the severity, depending on, what type of cancer it is, those treatments can be brutal. I remember when my dad had cancer and he was going through chemo. He was relatively okay for the days after his treatment, but those first couple of days, because he had a port where the medicine stayed with him after he was at the clinic, it was bad for those first couple of days. It was horrible. He was so sick, he could barely move. It was only because of the medicines that he was given that helped the nausea, helped the vomiting. And he was a strong human being. So to see your dad like that, right, who was always physically active and had done construction, still hopped around on trusses and roofs, like he was like some sort of monkey climbing from tree to tree, even, in his 50s. That's what I remember my dad. So then to see him go through his treatment and then be so weak and not be able to move or hardly get out of bed or his chair, there's no way the man could have done even an office job some days because of how sick he actually was. This, to me, is another form of cruelty from this federal government. It truly is, because all these people really want is to get better. The treatments are not always easy. The treatments are expensive. And to be like, you could go get a job. No, sometimes they can't.
You want your Medicaid, you gotta work. We don't care. We don't care how weak you are from your illness. We don't care that you might miss important treatments. We don't care. We only care about enriching our friends. We only care about enriching ourselves. We are a society now, the society voted him in. We are a society that doesn't value any sort of weakness. Yeah. And weakness from illness that's not a character flaw.
No.
It's you're sick and you better pray that you don't get sick. Well, I've been better to get. No. You have no idea till you're like Jamie said. And I can't imagine. But we do operate from a place of us or me before you.
Yeah.
Us before them. And rich before anybody else.
And if you're sick, and let's be clear, most people who are on Medicaid are already working, or they're a caretaker, or they're a small business owner, whatever it might be. But this state alone, think about this for a minute if you're listening today. In Wisconsin alone, this state sees roughly 30,000 to 35,000 new cancer diagnoses each and every year. And a lot of those new patients are completely dependent on public health coverage at some point during that treatment because they cannot work. And so they're going to miss coverage. They're going to, even if it's temporary, that could delay their appointments. It could delay chemotherapy. It could delay radiation treatments, the medications, the follow-up care, all of those things that might keep a cancer patient alive and healthy. You think of HIV patients. If they are missing their medicines, that is what it keeps their immune system from being compromised. It is. It's literally a form of cruelty when we're thinking about it in those terms. And I don't know. For me, this is a hard one. I've witnessed so many family members pass away from cancer. I know what my genetics are. I had to be tested. We had so many people with cancer in our family. I know what my genetics are. This is a hard one for me. And to me, this is a sickening reality of where we're at as a country.
Yeah, there's really no words. We've taken a system that had a few flaws. No system is perfect, and we've made it much more difficult. The states are having a problem. Remember, this is not a state issue.
No.
This is not Wisconsin's fault. This is the federal government. This is the administration that we're operating under, and they have decided that once again, you are not important. And that's how we live right now.
Wow.
Okay, let's lighten it up because we're getting ready to wrap up the day. Oh no, we're not. We're talking to Ruth Schmidt, the executive director of Wisconsin Early Childhood. I'll get it out. This is Daybreak on the Civic Media Network.
Local voices, statewide impact. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. It is 8:35 right now. My name is Jamie Martinson.
And good morning. I'm Brian Noonan. Pandemic-era child care funding is set to expire at the end of the month, and according to a new report from Wisconsin Early Childhood Association, the lack of funding could force about 25% of Wisconsin's child care providers to either close or significantly reduce their services. Here to share more of the report is Ruth Schmidt, Executive Director at Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. Ruth, thanks for being here. We've been talking a lot about the current state of child care in Wisconsin, from the cost of it to staff shortages to centers closing. How much worse can the situation get if these current federal stabilizing funds, or when the funds end?
So when you ask a question about how much worse can things get, the folks that I work most closely with often say I'm sort of the doom and gloom person on the childcare issues, because I've been in my position for 25 years and I've watched generations of children move through this system with little to no change happening in terms of how we invest in it as a system for social good and a public good type of system. When we went into 2020, so COVID, the year of COVID, Wisconsin was already seeing very steep declines in childcare availability across our state. We lost in the last decade, before COVID, we lost about 30% of our regulated childcare programs across the state. And when you look at what is happening in family childcare, so these are very small in-home programs that are regulated to care for anywhere from 3 to 6 children, or 3 to 8 children. I apologize for that. Those are the types of programs that our rural areas of the state rely on very heavily. Those were closing at a rate of almost 75 to 80% prior to COVID.
Wow.
So we had a crisis going on in our state. It did not get the attention that it needed as kind of a public interest. This is something that we all need to pay attention to until COVID. And the reason for that was that while the governor shut down schools in Wisconsin, the governor did not shut down childcare programs. He urged childcare programs to remain open, and they did. This is what childcare does. It's a lot of really great, wonderful women who care a lot about their communities and the children they care for. They stayed open so that our essential workers across the state could work, so that our healthcare workers could work, our grocery stores could stay stocked, we could sell things to people that needed it during those days. And suddenly, I think it raised the reputation, the importance of childcare as an issue in our state, and the fact that it is essential work in and of itself. Going into COVID, we already saw incredibly high tuition rates for children. Those rates have continued to steadily inch up, and we'll expect them to inch up even more. We know that childcare programs are closing. We had a shortage of teachers in this industry, and things were pretty messy. And the one thing that we like to point out right away on this topic of what happened when federal money started flowing to Wisconsin, first, we need to understand Wisconsin was one of the first states to actually get its stabilization payments up and running and into bank accounts of childcare programs. And this dramatic 30% decline in care that we were seeing across our state stabilized. And so we've seen growth in childcare, very incremental growth over the past 5 or 6 years. When all of the stabilization payments are out the door by mid to late July of this year, we anticipate to start seeing those numbers escalate again. So along with affordability of care, we can talk more about that and how much of a household income it's chewing up. Things were rough.
Yeah. We're talking with Ruth Schmidt. She is the executive director at Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. Let's jump into that funding. We've heard from our own listeners here on Civic Media that say a good portion of their monthly income is going to childcare. It's more than their mortgage. So if this funding disappears, Ruth, how are these families going to do this? How are they going to make up those differences so those facilities are able to stay open? Are there any solutions?
Parents are tapped out. When tuition payment, and we hear this from childcare programs across the state, when childcare programs are starting to raise rates, and this happened probably within the last 3 years, we started seeing it in a much more pronounced way. When tuition payments continued to need to go up, we saw parents actually needing to pull their children out of childcare because they can no longer afford it. So if you start with just that premise that parents are already spending 20 to 30% of their household income on childcare every single month, when you think of this in terms of some parents are paying anywhere from, if you have 2 children in care, anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year on childcare, you begin to understand it's not there. Childcare works in a failed market. Childcare providers cannot raise their rates high enough to afford to pay their staff. People who work in childcare in Wisconsin, on average, are making about $14 an hour, and only 20% of them have access to an employer-sponsored healthcare plan. So this is an industry doing incredibly important work. And they're paid poorly, so they leave the field. Parents can't afford to pay more because they're tapped out. It would be like saying to a parent of a child in starting kindergarten, hey, you got to start paying $15,000 a year for your child to go to kindergarten and for until that child graduates. That's on your back. We don't do that. It's not good public policy in terms of what we have going on in childcare. And so parents are leaving care. We know that there has been an increase in parents leaving the workforce. I think with the last round of tuition increases, we saw parents leaving the workforce up to 10, 11% of our workforce population. And I feel like I can answer this question by like throwing data. It's
Sure.
like, when women are working in childcare, women are working in industry.
Right.
If we have more women working in childcare, we have more women working in industry. We could increase manufacturing in our state.
Sure.
In healthcare, if you don't have 74% of healthcare workers are women. If you don't have childcare for those women's children, you see declines in clinical care being available. You see workforce stresses. You see we have this incredible shortage of healthcare workers in our state. Mm-hmm. It's all part of one system. The solution is revenue. Mm-hmm. Revenue. The question is, where is it from? Whose revenue? But we have to put revenue into the system, or there is absolutely no way it will continue to be available to the average family in Wisconsin.
Well, the state had the child care bridge payments that were going on. Those are stopping. Was there any funding for early childhood in this proposed bill, the spending bill that came out and was defeated last month?
There was not. So I would say there is the Dems have advanced bills mm-hmm. or trying to advance bills that would reinstate child care accounts types of funding. So that's stabilization funding. That has not happened. In terms of what came out of the most recent negotiations on budget and surplus spending did not include funding for childcare. The governor has done what the governor could do. He has made every possible dollar of federal money available for childcare that he could do. We have to, it's not there anymore. We have to turn to the state. We have to turn to new revenue streams.
So
like what? Where would that revenue come from? Sorry, Jamie.
No.
I mean, you can look at states across the nation and see different models for how that's happening. In one East Coast state, we have seen a employer-supported, employer-paid payroll tax, 0.44%. And that has raised revenues directly for childcare. It has allowed them to blow up their subsidy program to the point where they are serving families through their subsidy program up to, I want to say, over 500% of the poverty level. So it's a great way to, you get payroll taxes, you put it into a system, you make it more widely available, you increase the rate that you're paying. That's a solution. Okay. You've got states like New Mexico with universal care, and they can tap into oil. I think it was oil that they had available in terms of revenue from oil, and they're able to use that also for childcare. You've got states that have used marijuana taxes. You've got states that have used soda taxes. You've got all sorts of options, and Wisconsin needs to be thinking of those.
We're talking with Ruth Schmidt this morning. She's the executive director at Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. We have about 2.5 minutes here left, Ruth. Obviously, we need our lawmakers to act on a state level, but if nothing is done, right, what would Wisconsin's child care system look like 6 months from now, a year from now, if nobody does anything?
It'll be sort of scary, and it'll be sort of terrifying to think of what is happening to the children. We know that 25% of programs indicate that they may close. We know that 78% of childcare programs indicate they will need to raise rates. We know that over 35% said they'll reduce hours of operation. We already have a workforce shortage of over 4,000 teachers in this state for our childcare programs just to fill regulated capacity. Childcare, our employers across our state will be faced with an inability to hire people because there won't be childcare available for the workforce. We think this is a once in a lifetime kind of event that is happening in our state. It's concerning, but it also is an incredible opportunity with the elections coming up to address this and do it right.
Are you seeing, let's look at the governor's race. We've got 8 Democrats and 1 Republican running for governor. Are any of them addressing early child care needs as they're on the campaign trail now? We got about a minute.
Yeah, I believe that almost every Democrat has put out statements on childcare. There's a childcare forum coming up in July that is gubernatorial, and it is exclusively on childcare. We are engaging with gubernatorial candidates to hear from them in terms of what are their issues and how do they plan to address it. So it's a hot topic. It's on the table. It's being talked about.
Well, Ruth, thanks very much for joining us. Ruth Schmidt, the executive director at Wisconsin Early Childhood Association. It is a sobering stat. WisconsinEarlyChildhood.org is where you can get more information. Ruth, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, there is more. Now we'll try to freshen things up with new Listerine. Anyway, it's 8:50. This is Daybreak on the Civic.
Fairly solid and better than expected. It's Daybreak with Brian and Jamie.
It's 8:52 right now. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Civic Media Network. A quick reminder that if you've been trying to win and get your name into the entry and you're in that Accelerate Your Summer multi-state text-to-win contest, another chance to play coming up in about 8 minutes or so. So be ready with that Civic Media app. A new word will be given, and you'll have your chance to enter and hopefully win some cash and some prizes. Daily prizes and, of course, the grand prize winner, grand prizes that we'll be giving away next week as well. So exciting stuff,
Brian.
Very
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, very exciting. And it's going on, as Jamie said, all next week, too. So today, tomorrow, just be listening. It's not a hard job. All you got to do is listen. Then text. Oh, that means spelling. Yes, it does mean spelling.
But we spell it for you.
Okay.
We spell it for you.
We do spell it for you. We tell you. All you got to do is copy it down.
Yes.
Get
listen.
a pen. Old school. Just listen.
And text. You're already doing that anyway. We all text all the time.
Is mouthwash part of your daily routine? 855-75-CIVIC, 855-752-4842. I have never been a mouthwash guy. I think we might have a bottle of Scope somewhere in the house.
I use mouthwash every day.
Do you really?
I do. Twice a day, in fact.
Really?
Yes, morning and night brusher here.
Hey, good for you. Well, I brush my teeth, but that doesn't mean...
I try, but morning and night here, and then I use my mouthwash twice a day, too.
Okay.
But I will say this. I am very sensitive to mouthwashes because I don't like anything that stings my mouth. Like I want clean breath, right? Like I want clean teeth and healthy mouth. I don't want my mouth to sting in the process of doing so. And some of these
how do you know it's getting clean if it's not abrasive and stinging?
If it's taking off my skin
gums
off,
aren't bleeding,
right? My enamel's wearing off my teeth, kind of thing. I don't.
Yeah.
If it stings my mouth, I'm pretty much out. So I use a very mild, I guess you would call it, mouthwash, which I absolutely love. It's one of my absolute favorites. But it's not
this
Listerine.
might be good news for you.
Right.
Listerine. I remember Listerine from when I was a little kid.
Sure.
And it was a glass bottle on my grandparents'
gold.
sink, and it was gold, and it was the most
Smelled
vile,
like medicine.
putrid, horrible thing. It smelled like medicine.
Yes.
It looked like medicine.
Yes.
The bottle, everything. And so Listerine was never.
No.
That was never a thing. But now they're launching a new extra mild mouthwash. They must have heard, but it's
People like me.
It took you this long,
Right?
to come.
Listerine's been around for a while.
And man, Listerine. I don't. No shade on Listerine, but I think it could peel paint.
It could.
I think know. I think that's what they embalmed fetal pigs with for biology lab.
Yes.
It was. Listerine was rough.
It was.
Well, not now. Now they got extra mild.
I love
for
this.
people who want a gentler taste, like you, Jamie.
That'd be me.
But Jamie wants the gentler taste while still getting her oral health benefits.
That's right. I do want oral
that the brand
health
is known
benefits.
because Listerine kills 99.9% of germs that cause bad breath, plaque, and gingivitis, and provide more cleaning power than brushing and flossing alone. If that live read doesn't get me a Listerine endorsement, I don't know what will. But yes, that's what Listerine claims. I wonder what that 0.1% germ is, just
I
sitting
don't
on your
know.
tongue, flipping off Listerine.
I have no idea, but the fact that they now have extra mild, and intense makes me feel like I'm tasting a hot sauce and not like doing fresh breath and good oral hygiene.
Frank, we got to get all 3 flavors of Listerine, and we'll do a taste off.
Parker, you.
Yeah, because Jamie likes clean breath, so we want to make sure which one is which.
If Brian gets his sponsor deal there
Okay.
after that live read, then I'll do it.
Oh, that's
Okay,
right.
all right.
Once I am Mr. Listerine.
Oh.
What I love about this is that Listerine is launching what they're calling their summer Swish Tour. And they're going to make appearances at major music events, interestingly enough, including the Governor's Ball, which is a music festival in New York. I have so many questions.
I'm going to sit this out for a second so I don't get canceled. I'm going to just wait. So many things. I have Yeah. So, this is good. I guess the whole thing. They're expanding oral health education efforts through partnerships with the American Dental Association and rural health organizations. Why singling out the people in the country? Again, I'm not going to. You're not getting me with this story,
They're
Jamie.
also partnering with Amazon Music and also social media influencers so that they encourage people to personalize their oral health care routine.
How else are you going to do it? Oral health care is in fact personal. How much more personal does it get?
I'm trying to figure out why we're trying to make this cool. Like,
well, because people stink. Let's be honest.
I don't understand why we're trying to make Listerine cool. I don't understand why we're trying to tie it into music festivals and social media influencers. It's very strange to me. I'm all for
Parker.
taking care of your mouth and making sure that you don't have to go to the see, that's my thing. I don't want to go to the dentist. I don't like going to the dentist. So I'll do anything I can to not have to go to the dentist.
Parker, you go to a lot of raves. Is Listerine going to be cool when you're out there on your Molly spinning around with your pacifiers?
Oh, maybe that'll take the smell out, I guess.
Okay,
A little.
all right,
Maybe, all right.
maybe.
Yeah, that might be.
At least
Making Listerine cool.
At least Listerine is not like the gold medicine that you remember from your grandparents' house.
It's
Now
probably the intense. I would imagine the intense is the
mint.
original recipe.
They have like a mint now. That's what my kid uses. My kid uses Listerine because he wants it to feel like all of the enamel is being peeled off his teeth when he swishes his Listerine through his mouth.
But then you can't eat or drink anything for hours because your tongue has
It's
now
numb.
been stripped
It's
of
numb.
all its.
You
It's
can't
like
taste.
just scraping and scraping and scraping.
You can't taste anything. It's numb. It's
Ugh.
been like being to the dentist and getting the Novocaine shots. I just don't understand why we're trying to make it cool.
I don't know, but I can't wait to wrap this up and say all the things that I wanted to say during this segment when we're off the air. But yeah, so there you go, Listerine. All the kids are doing it. Well, that's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow with a Friday edition of Daybreak. Thank you for listening and being part of the program. Don't forget, you can always listen to our podcast. Go to Spotify or download the Civic Media app. And then Instagram and Facebook, Daybreak with Brian and Jamie. I'm Brian Noonan. This is Daybreak.
I'm Jamie Martinson. Thank you so much for joining us again today. Join us again tomorrow morning right here on the Civic Media Network.